Paiva from Hitchhiking Stars, and I'm very, very excited to be working with Witches of Instagram and to be bringing you some insights and reflections and a little bit of astrological wisdom on each one of the new moons and the full moons from now on. So the first one that we'll be looking at is the full moon happening on the 5th of February 2023. So this is a full moon in Leo, and it will be happening at 16 degrees Leo. Now, we astrologers really like the degrees, so not only the sign is important, so is a full moon in Leo, so not only the sign is going to be important, but also the degree that's happening. So we have from 0 to 29 degrees on each one of the star signs. So that kind of gives a little bit further clues on what that full moon or what that new moon is trying to tell us, or is reflecting of the possibilities of that time for us. So 16 degrees Leo is a very interesting degree, is a middle degree. So, so imagine we've got 30, 0 to 29 degrees. I mean, 16 is very, very in the middle of the sign. So it has a very strong quality of that sign to offer. But not only that, each degree, and I really love to work with that, each degree has a specific sort of imagery that we call, some astrologers work with it, which is called Sabian symbols. And so the Sabian symbols, they're like imageries that a clairvoyant called Elsie Wheeler came up with in 1925. And I really, really love working with those symbols because they really give us a specific imagery for each one of the degrees. Now, the 16th degree of Leo, the image for that is a gnome-vested church choir. Some of these images might be a bit puzzling. We might be like, what does that actually mean? They're very, very symbolic, and I love to use them as a door to imagination. And so this image of a gnome-vested church choir really talks about dedication to a collective ideal. So there is a clue there of a theme that I also see very much connected with the conundrum or the split between Aquarius and Leo. A full moon is always an opposition, so the sun is in the opposite sign, so we have the polarity of Aquarius and Leo being involved in there. And so that image of the 16th degree talking about dedication to a collective ideal says something interesting, something important about this full moon. So another interesting thing about this full moon, which I think it goes in the same direction, in a similar direction to this image and this idea of the dedication to a collective ideal, is that the full moon is also forming an aspect. We call it an aspect when there is an angle between planets. And this one is a 90 degrees, so we call it a square. So there is a square between the sun, the moon, and the planet Uranus. So planet Uranus is a 15 degrees Taurus. It's a very, very tight, we would say in astrology, aspect between the three of them. And what that really means as well is that planet Uranus is very relevant in this full moon as well. Now, Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius, so it has a resonance with what Aquarius is about. So the group, the collective, people, friends, and I think the polarity between Leo and Aquarius really talks about being special and being able to contribute with the group. I think this is like bringing the polarity together. It's like, how can you bring your unique gifts, that's the moon in Leo, towards the group? How can you contribute with the greater good, the sun in Aquarius, and the Uranus, involved in that T-square as well, in your own unique and special way? I think that moon in Leo is really bringing and highlighting anything to do with wounds around your inner child, around your sense of feeling special, your sense of who you are, regardless of conditionings and accomplishments. And I think Leo really has a connection to the heart. and so where you put your heart into as well. And so any wounds around that will be highlighted during this full moon. So this is a great time to become aware of some of these wounds and to set intentions to letting them go as well. I find full moons are incredibly powerful to see things. If you think about the moon, the moon is so powerfully visible, and we can see the whole circle in the sky when there is a full moon. So it's shining so strongly in the sky. And I think this is sort of like the idea with a full moon, is that we can really see something shining very strongly in our lives as well. So anything to do with not being able to be authentically you, or being in an ego place that you're not really contributing with, the community in some way as well, all of those will be highlighted during this full moon. What's great about that Uranus aspect as well is that you can free yourself from it. Uranus resonates with the idea of awakening as well. So it's like a big wake-up call when you have that powerful energy there in the sky as well. The moon is also forming a nice trine with Chiron in Aries as well. So there is still a kind of a trine. It's not really exact, but there is 120 degrees there, and this is an aspect of removal of obstacles. I love that way of seeing trines. And so that trine with Chiron Aries as well is pointing out to potential healing that we can be doing in terms of our special sense of self, our sense of who we are, and like having the license to be yourself. I read a text recently talking about saying your name proudly and not being shy to take up space. I think this is partly some of the healing that can be happening during this full moon in Leo, and that planet Uranus can help with breaking the chains that are like holding you back. So if you're too much on one side of the polarity and you care too much about the group, you care too much about what other people want, what other people expect from you, well, you can heal some of that. You can think about set intentions around taking up space and being yourself and being more of yourself in your life. But also on the other side as well, if you are taking this more lunar sort of, alone sort of position, and you're doing what you want and being somewhat more individualistic, this full moon can also show you where you can somehow improve that. I mean, I don't like the idea of fixing ourselves, but somewhat include other people in your decisions. Include other people in your process as well, or in your offerings as well. So you do have the gift, and you have to be you. I mean, nobody's going to question. I think there was I saw it somewhere, like, when we die and we go, if there is something like heaven, and they're never going to ask you why you were in Marilyn Monroe. You're supposed to be yourself, and I feel that there's such a strong resonance with the moon in Leo there, with this idea. So that's definitely a very strong point with this full moon in Leo on the 5th of Feb. Another important aspect that's happening in this chart during, at the time of the full moon as well, is that planet Uranus is close to the north node. So the moon has nodes, and they're not really planets. They're like a point. Is an astronomical point there, but what's really interesting about, from my perspective as an astrologer, is the symbolism of it. So the north node of the moon connects with our path of growth, whereas the south node is talking about where we are coming from and our comfort zone as well. Evolutionary astrology talks about the south node as our past lives. So Uranus being close to the north node, which is the opposite of our past lives, is where we're headed towards, is what we're learning, what we're developing collectively and individually as well. That Uranus near that north node again points out to breaking free somehow, finding ways of breaking free and expressing yourself more authentically. Because it's in Taurus as well, I keep thinking that your values are the gateway. So being really aware of what your values are, making lists. I mean, I find very useful to write lists when I'm a bit confused and not so sure what's important to me. But this could be done during the full moon, for example, making lists about your values. What are your top values? What are the non-negotiables in your life? So you can start fleshing out, how you're going to make decisions and what you're going to be creating. I mean, the full moon in Leo talks a lot about creativity. So what you're going to be creating, that's going to be based on your values, on your true core values. And another configuration there that kind of points out to this idea of values as well is Venus. So planet Venus will be at 12 degrees Pisces during the full moon, and is forming a 90 degrees, so square with Mars in Gemini. So Mars at 11 degrees Gemini. And I think perhaps some of the stories there with this full moon is that this could be dynamics around give and take as well. So on one hand, as a core sort of note of the full moon, we have Leo, we have that Uranus breaking free, we have the Aquarius as well. So what's your gift towards the community, towards others? How much can you really be yourself around the group, and how can you serve the group by being yourself, and things like that. And then that Uranus in Taurus would be aware of your values and be awake to your values. And then that Venus Mars are talking about give and take. How can you balance compromising and taking charge? It's like the feminine and the masculine energies, they're like in a kind of a struggle there with the 90 degrees with each other. So it really points out to getting into, I think that Mars Venus really sort of reflects somehow a split between security and creativity as well. Like, how much can you compromise on your security to be creative, or really prioritize the security and not really be creative in your life. So issues around creativity will be very predominant and clear for us to look at and to ponder on as well. So to decide how we want to create our lives, what's working from what's not working. I think this is one of the greatest gifts that the planets can really reflect to us, is this sense of insight, this sense of reflection that we can have. So that Venus Mars, in that interesting aspect. And I think one of the things that I think, because that Venus also rules the North Node and the Uranus in Taurus, is to be connected with an intuition, rather than just with the rational and being argumentative with that Mars in Gemini as well. So trying to feel a little bit more where your place is, where can you place yourself in this, with this revelation that the full moon can bring to you, and really see where you can be more creative, where you can bring more creativity in your life, more inspiration in your life. I think that Venus in Pisces has a lot to do with inspiration as well. It's a very powerful, beautiful placement for Venus to be. And finally, another aspect that I see in this full moon, in the chart of the full moon, is Mercury forming a nice sextile as well to Neptune. And I really feel that this is reinforcing this idea of stepping into that Piscean, intuitive, creative. I think one of the key words to Pisces is divine inspiration. So that Mercury in sextile to Neptune for me really represents the potential for tapping into divine inspiration, tapping into ideas that, have that flavor of divine inspiration, and healing the inner child in the process, which I think is one of the best things about Leo and Leo energy as well. So that's that's it for the insights for the full moon in Leo on the 5th of February 2023. So I'm wishing you all a wonderful, creative, and powerful and healing full moon as well. And this is Fernanda Paiva.